Title in court. My wife's boyfriend, a lawyer, laughed. The judge is my friend. You're leaving this room with nothing, soldier. My wife smirked. He's too scared to even speak. Look at him. He slid a paper in front of me. Sign it now. He had no idea who I really was. Chapter 1. The insult. The courtroom smelled faintly of old wood and floor polish. The air thick with the low hum of whispers. I sat at the petitioner's table in my uniform's dress blues. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted a reminder of who I was before all this. Years in service, countless missions, sacrifices, all now reduced to a divorce hearing. Across from me sat my soon-to-be ex-wife, her manicured nails drumming lightly on the table. Beside her was her boyfriend, a tall, slick-haired attorney with an expensive suit and the kind of smirk that made you want to break something. He leaned back in his chair, glancing at me with lazy confidence. The judge is my friend. You're leaving this room with nothing, soldier. My wife smiled at him, then turned to me. He's too scared to even speak. Look at him. The lawyer pulled a document from his briefcase and slid it across the table toward me. Sign it now. I looked down at the paper. It was a property settlement, one that stripped me of the house, the savings, even my truck. It was robbery, dressed up in legal language. I didn't pick up the pen. Instead, I looked him in the eye, my voice calm, almost casual. You really have no idea who I am, do you? Chapter 2. Before the betrayal. 3 years ago, if you'd told me I'd be sitting in a courtroom across from her, I would have laughed. Back then, she was my anchor. Or so I thought. We met when I was still in active service. She said she admired my discipline, my loyalty, my sense of duty. I thought she meant it. But I also noticed the way her eyes lit up when we went to events. Not because she was proud to be on my arm, but because she liked the attention. She liked being introduced to powerful people. She liked the way officers' wives would lean in to hear her talk. When I rotated back stateside and took a desk role at the base, things changed. She complained about the hours, about the boring life, about how I wasn't the man she married. I chalked it up to adjustment. Then came the late-night work dinners, the phone calls taken in the garage, the sudden obsession with her appearance. I wanted to believe her excuses. I really did. The truth came in the ugliest way possible. I returned home early from a training seminar and found them, her and him, in my living room, wine glasses on the table, his suit jacket on my chair. He didn't even flinch, just smiled that lawyer's smile and said, "Guess you're home early, soldier." It wasn't just betrayal, it was mockery. And when I learned later that he'd taken her case for our divorce and was connected to the judge, I knew I wasn't walking into a fair fight. But I'd been in unfair fights before, and I'd never gone in unprepared. Chapter 3. The quiet set. Back in the courtroom, I didn't touch the pen he'd slid toward me. Instead, I leaned back, letting them believe I was hesitating out of fear. What they didn't know was that my silence was deliberate. For the past 3 months, I'd been quietly building my own case. Not through the typical divorce attorney route, but using the skills and contacts I'd gained in the service. I'd pulled bank records, traced hidden accounts she thought I didn't know about, and gotten statements from mutual friends she'd burned along the way. More importantly, I'd documented everything. The affair, the lies, and most damning of all, the shady communication between her boyfriend and the judge. A friend of mine from the CD, Criminal Investigation Division, had helped me set up a perfectly legal wire during one of their celebratory dinners. The arrogance was astounding. They'd openly joked about burying the soldier, and how the judge will sign whatever we put in front of him. All of it I now had on a clean audio file, the file I'd labeled for Court Exhibit Z. I kept my face unreadable as I glanced toward the judge. He gave a polite but expectant nod, clearly thinking this was going to be over in minutes. The lawyer tapped the document. "Sign it, soldier. Save yourself the humiliation." I almost smiled. "You sure about that?" Chapter 4. Exhibit Z. The judge cleared his throat. "Mr. Walker, either sign the agreement or state your objection." I stood slowly, buttoning my jacket. "Your Honor, I do have an objection and an additional piece of evidence." The lawyer rolled his eyes. "Your Honor, this is a transparent stall tactic. There's no new evidence on record. I reached into my briefcase and set a small digital recorder on the table. Actually, there is. The room shifted. Murmurs from the gallery. The clerk straightening in her chair. The judge's brow furrowed. Proceed. I pressed play. Her boyfriend's voice filled the courtroom, smooth and arrogant. Don't worry, babe. The judge will sign whatever we put in front of him. We'll bleed him dry and toast to it in Cabo. My wife's laughter followed, unmistakable. He's too scared to fight back. By the time he realizes the house, the accounts, everything will be ours. A gasp rippled through the spectators. My wife's eyes widened. Her lawyer sat frozen for a moment before leaping to his feet. Objection. This is an invasion of privacy. The judge cut him off sharply. Overruled. Continue the recording. I did, and the next line was the one I'd been waiting for. Her boyfriend again. Even if he tries, I'll bury him. The judge is my buddy. We've done this before. Now the judge leaned forward, eyes locked on the lawyer. His voice icy. Is that your voice, counselor? The color drained from his face. Chapter 5. The turn of the tide. The silence in that courtroom was suffocating. Even the sound of the air conditioner felt loud. The lawyer swallowed hard. His voice suddenly small. Your Honor, this is taken out of context. The judge slammed his gavel once. Mr. Cole, you will not insult this court with flimsy excuse. This recording demonstrates clear collusion and misconduct. The life sees that device for evidence. Two babes stepped forward, one collecting the recorder, the other positioning himself near the lawyer just in case. My wife looked between me and her champion, realization dawning that her supposed ironclad plan had just cracked wide open. The judge turned to me. Mr. Walker, I'll be reviewing this evidence thoroughly. For now, all asset transfer requests are frozen pending investigation. Custody arrangements will remain unchanged until this court decides otherwise. I nodded respectfully. Thank you, Your Honor. I'm confident the full truth will make itself clear. I didn't mention the other pieces of evidence waiting in my photographs, bank transfer logs, and one particularly incriminating email that tied them both to an offshore account. That would come later once the first blow had done its work. Her lawyer leaned toward her, whispering urgently. But I could hear enough. We need to settle before this escalates. If the judge pursues this, her sharp reply, settle. We're not giving him anything. I just smiled to myself, because this battle had stopped being about what I'd get. It was now about how much they'd lose. Chapter 6. The second strike court adjourned early that day, but I didn't go home. I walked straight to the district attorney's office. My CD contact was already waiting in the lobby, a thick folder in his hand. Inside were the rest of my findings. Bank transfers from my wife's joint account with her boyfriend, emails detailing asset hiding, and my personal favorite, a photo of them vacationing in the Maldives last year during a business trip she claimed was to attend a women's leadership conference. The DA flipped through the evidence slowly, her expression hardening. Mr. Walker, this isn't just family court fraud. This is conspiracy, financial misconduct, and bribery of a public official. We'll be opening a criminal investigation immediately. By the time I left the DA's office, warrants were already being drafted. The following week, I walked into court again. This time, the atmosphere was different, tense, charged. My wife's lawyer didn't meet my eyes. Two men in dark suits stood near the back. Internal affairs. The judge took his seat, shuffled some papers, then looked up at the gallery. Before we proceed, this court has been made aware of ongoing criminal inquiries involving parties present. As such, all divorce proceedings are suspended, pending the outcome of said investigation. Furthermore, he looked straight at her lawyer. Mr. Cole, you are hereby removed from this case. May life please escort Mr. Cole to the side chamber for questioning. The gasp from my wife was almost theatrical. She reached for him, but he didn't even glance back. I leaned toward her just enough, so she could hear me. You told me I had no choice. You were right. I didn't. I had to destroy you. Her face went pale. She knew this wasn't over. It was only getting worse. Chapter 7. Total collapse. 3 weeks later, The story broke. Local news ran the headline. Prominent attorney and lover accused of bribing judge, defrauding veteran in divorce case. It spread fast. By the second day, national outlets were replaying snippets of the audio. Her laugh, his smug promises over and over. My phone buzzed non-stop with messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Most were congratulations. Some were apologies for ever doubting me. Her world, however, was crumbling. Her boyfriend was disbarred within a month, and now faced up to 12 years in prison. The judge, his buddy, was suspended pending ethics violations and possible bribery charges. And my wife, she was charged as a co-conspirator. The DA froze her accounts, repossessed her luxury car, and seized the condo she'd bought for herself with my money. Her family, once smug and vocal, went silent. I heard whispers they'd mortgaged their own home to cover her mounting legal fees. But the real moment, the one I'd been waiting for, came in the final hearing. The new judge looked over the case file, then directly at me. Miss Walker, in light of overwhelming evidence of misconduct, you are granted full custody of your children, sole ownership of all disputed assets, and immediate dissolution of the marriage. Mrs. Walker is ordered to pay restitution once she is legally able. Her hands shook as the gavel fell. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and said quietly as I passed her, "No other choice, remember." I walked out of that courtroom free, my kids waiting outside with my father, smiling for the first time in months. Epilogue. The final blow. 2 months after that grocery store encounter, an envelope arrived in my mailbox, her handwriting shaky, desperate. Inside was a single page. "I can't find work. I can't pay rent. Please, just enough to get me through until I find something for the kids' sake." There was no "I'm sorry," no acknowledgement of what she'd done, just an assumption that I would still bail her out. I placed the letter in a new envelope with a single photo, one I'd taken just last weekend. Me, the kids, my father and my new partner, smiling on the deck of the cabin I just bought in the mountains. On the back I wrote, "You were right. I had no choice. I chose to live well without you." 2 weeks later, a mutual friend told me she'd been evicted. She was staying in a rundown motel on the edge of town, sharing a room with strangers, and living off what little she could make in cash. Meanwhile, I was signing a contract for a major security project overseas, a 6-figure deal that would set my family up for years. The lesson was simple. Betrayal doesn't just burn bridges. It leaves you stranded on an island you set on fire yourself. And when you watch from a distance, you realize sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply walking away and never looking back. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you think about this story in the comments below. Like the story. If you think this story is justified, share it with someone who needs this energy, and subscribe to Lauren's Story for more jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and justice. Because here, every lie has its reckoning, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.